Hey there, thanks for clicking on this video. You have found the channel Mr. Articulate. I am Mr. Articulate, at least so I call myself tongue-in-cheek for this YouTube channel. I post a 5-minute video every night on YouTube, and my goal with each video that I make is to speak as fluently as I can and to avoid using filler words like or So what I want to talk about tonight is the fact that I just the other day completed a march through the entire Jay-Z discography. That's not necessarily every single song Jay-Z's ever made. In fact, I know it's not, I'm sure not by a long shot, but I did listen back to back to back to back and so on to all 13 of his studio albums. That starts with Reasonable Doubt, which was his first album, came out in 1996, all the way through his most recent album, which is called 444. I want to say it came out in 2017, but that I'm not positive about. So it was pretty cool to listen to all 13 Jay-Z albums. It was neat being able to trace his development as an artist and how he changed over time. And then also by tracing the changes in Jay-Z's development over the course of 21 years, also getting to trace the development of hip-hop itself, because his early albums, broadly speaking, sound similar to how other albums sounded in the 90s, and his later albums sound somewhat more similar to how other hip-hop albums sounded in the mid-teens of the 21st century. So I would say no big surprises if I was to rank the albums. I don't know how I would rank albums 4 through 13 necessarily, but my top 3 albums would be the same top 3 that probably most Jay-Z fans would have, and I will give them to you in my own personal order. They would be The Blueprint, 2001, and Reasonable Doubt would be second. That's from 1996. And then third would be the Black Album, which was probably around 2003. But yeah, I mean, the Blue Album is the best. The music on the Blue Album is so damn good. It's famously a very cohesive album in terms of the beats that you find. The producers were a young Kanye West before he was famous outside of the hip-hop producer circuit, and a young Just Blaze when he was just coming up, and a third guy who I had not heard of until I started reading about him when I was re-listening to the Blue Album. His name's not coming to me. He didn't go on to have the type of prominence as a producer that West or Just Blaze did, but he's got like 3 beats, I think, on the Blue Album, and they are damn good. And then Timbaland has 1 track as well. But the Blue Album, so cohesive musically, and it's beautiful music, and Jay-Z's flow is excellent, and the lyrics are really good. So the Blue Album's his best album. And like I said, Reasonable Doubt, Black Album 2 and 3. After Reasonable Doubt and before The Blueprint, you get 4 albums. And the first 3 form a trilogy. The trilogy is called My Life and Times. And I believe the first of those 3 albums is just called My Life and Times Volume 1. And then the second and third ones have subtitles. Those are really good. They are not as good as the 2 albums I keep mentioning that bracket them, but they are really good. They're not as even as the Reasonable Doubt and the Blue Album, but they all have standout tracks. There's a lot of great music on all of them. Jay-Z's flows, again, often great. There's good lyricism. They just aren't there's always duds, first of all, especially near the end of each of those albums. Those last few tracks, there's some ones that just shouldn't be on the album, because that's another thing is Jay-Z's first 12 albums are all like an hour. I'm not sure about the Blueprint actually, but by and large, every album that I listened to was clocked in at around an hour, with the one exception for sure of the Black Album, and that is not because it's shorter than an hour, it's because it's longer, because it's a double album. And then you get to his 13th one, his most recent, and it was only like 40 minutes or so. So he found brevity very late in the game. But if you're going to make an album and 3 or 4 of the songs are not going to be up to snuff, and the album's going to be an hour long, just cut the songs that aren't as good as the other songs. I don't know why he always needed them to be a full 60 minutes like that. But as I say, some really good albums there. And then after that trilogy, you get an album called La Familia, which was basically him and a bunch of artists that he had signed to his label, guesting on a lot of the tracks. I think that album, generally, broadly speaking, in musical critical circles, is considered really bad, like cringingly bad. I only listened to each of these albums one time. Some of them I've listened to a lot in the past, but for this run that I did, it was one listen to each. And in that huge sweep from beginning to end, I didn't think La Familia was terrible or anything like that. I guess I probably liked it less than the 3 In My Life and Times albums, but I wasn't sitting there sticking my fingers in my ears trying to play it without listening to it. I thought, again, decent music and all that. And then you get to the Blue Album, and then after that, you get sort of the second half of Jay-Z's career. So after the Blue Album comes, or excuse me, the Blueprint. After the Blueprint comes the Blueprint 2, and then the Black Album, and then let me see if I can just run down all 13 albums here. Reasonable Doubt, then the Trilogy, then La Familia, then the Blueprint, and then Blueprint Volume 2 we're up to 7. Black Album is 8. And then from there, I think he did Kingdom Come for his 9th album, and then American Gangster was his 10th album. And then 11th was the Blueprint Part 3. 12th was called Kingdom Come. And then his most recent album, as I've said, 444. So on the other side of the Black Album, it's a mixed bag. The Blueprint 3 sucks, frankly. It's just not good. That's the album that has his song about New York. I believe it's called Empire State. But that song I love. I don't know. I bet a lot of rap purists don't really like that song. But I think his flows on that music are tremendous. I think it is such a cool flow he brings to that song. And I think a lot of the lyrics are fantastic, and that beat's really cool. And so I think that's a really good song. I think He's the Worst Part of Run This Town. That's another single from that album. Rihanna's hook is cool. Kanye's verse is cool. The beat is cool. I think Jay's verse is not good. And I used to think that when that song was on the radio. And I was many years away from listening to the album. But just when that song was on the radio, I always just winced at Jay-Z's verse. And the third single I remember from that album was Forever Young, which basically just has the guy who sings that famous song, Forever Young, singing the song again, and the music's okay. Jay's verse is not that good. So the Blueprint 3 sucks. American Gangster was fun. It was cool. Kingdom Come, I think, was a pretty badly reviewed album. I liked it. I thought it was good. And 444 was a much better reviewed album, and I thought it was cool. It was like on a second by second, minute by minute basis, it's quite good, but it ends up feeling very lightweight to me. It's cool. It's like a cool, you look at someone's mantelpiece and they have a knickknack they got on a vacation somewhere, and it looks beautiful. It looks like a beautiful piece of craftsmanship, and so it looks great on the mantle, and that's nice. If you go over and pick it up, it's not actually a piece of handcrafted work. You can tell it's something that was probably made in a factory. So it looks really nice. It doesn't handle very nice. I mean, it handles fine, but there's no heft like one of his actual classic albums. So I'm trying to think, post Black Album, if I didn't give a small impression of any of the albums. Right after the Black Album. All right, I'm going to run through this again here. So I believe I said the Black Album was his 7th album. Let me think. No, his 8th album is the Black Album. Yes, his 8th album. And then from there, the first one he did after that was Kingdom Come, which I've mentioned. And then American Gangster, which I've mentioned. Blueprint 3, which I've mentioned. And then seems like I mentioned Kingdom Come twice. So now I'm getting a little lost. Maybe when I did my rundown of 13 albums, I said Kingdom Come twice. I'm not sure. But anyway, this video has gone on long enough. If you're still here, thank you for indulging me in those periods where I trail off and am trying to think something through in my head. That is sort of the project for this channel, is to build my fluency. And when the river stops, I need to work my way through it so that the river eventually won't stop at such times. So thanks a lot. Hope you have a good rest of your day or night, and I will try to do the same here.